Hey everybody, this is Tanner Invest here. Today is August the 27th, 2025, and today we got a pretty exciting video. So I just went all in. No, I'm kidding. I didn't go all in, but I did throw a lot more money in the market this week into the Ethereum DATs like we've been talking about, guys. So I'm going to get into today's video. First, we're going to go over the mNAV update for all the Ethereum DATs, and we're going to look into specifically Bitmine, SBET, all the news regarding those. And then I'm going to look into price action that happened this week. And I'm going to get into, I actually put together a spreadsheet of every single cryptocurrency trade that I've made over the entire summer, just so I can track it myself, but also share with you guys. And then a couple other cool little videos that I want to share just from this week and all the news involved with these digital asset treasuries. So let's go ahead and hop in, guys. Appreciate everybody watching. By the way, I'm almost at like 2.7 thousand subs now. Really appreciate all the support. I also recently got monetized, which is crazy. I've only had this channel for like a little over 60 days, I think. But would love to say thank you. There are a couple people who have signed up for my channel membership. So I actually have like a little channel membership. What I plan to do with that is just create like an extra video. And it's more so like way more relaxed, just me chilling, hanging out, but going over what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, as well as like how I research stocks. And then I'm giving a little bit sooner access because I only put out like 2 to 3 videos a week. I plan on releasing instant access to like when I make these trades to those channel members. So thank you guys. Don't feel like you need to join, but if you want to, that'd be awesome. So thank you guys so much for the support. Go and hop into the screen here, guys. So first off, we'll take a look at risk on Bobby's little digital asset treasury mNAV update, where we're going to notice a couple things this week. Well, one, we can see here DYNX actually has changed their ticker to ETHM, which stands for Ethereum Machine. That is the name they've been going by for a while, just with a different ticker. So they've changed that just similarly to ETHZilla, what ETHZilla did last week, where they changed from like ATNF to ETHZ. So pretty cool to see. Ethereum Machine is an interesting one. I have been actually looking into that, but I will just tell you guys straight up, like right now at this moment, my plan is to keep acquiring Ethereum, BMNR, and SBET, just because really it all comes down to the stat down here, daily volumes. Look at the liquidity in these two stocks. When there's higher liquidity, typically means institutions are more likely to buy in, and when institutions buy in, stock price could go up. Obviously it can go down, but that being said, institutions love that liquidity. I think these are the two clear winners right now, and you can tell, Tom Lee, the hype he's brought around the stock for BMNR specifically, their volumes are now like 5xing, 6xing that of SBET, which is just insane. So let's go ahead and hop in. So BMNR, today's closing price dropped quite a bit, down to 46.03. That gives it the lowest mNAV we've seen to date at a 1.2. So there are two ways we can kind of think about this is, okay, are any of these treasuries going to hold higher than a 1.0? As we see, SBET and all these other treasuries are either at a 1.0 or below. Obviously, FGNX and ETHM are slightly higher, but they're also a lot smaller and have other ways they generate income, so it's a little different. Now, SBET and BMNR are now toward that 1.0 range. BMNR, I think this is by far the lowest we've ever seen them. So, not financial advice, but when the mNAV is that low, toward that 1.0 is typically when it's a decent time to buy if you are interested in that. I'm trying to say this the right way. But that being said, I will show you guys what I've been doing today, primarily in the last couple days, and what I've been buying. So let's go ahead and hop in to the next thing. This is really the huge update from BMNR this week, is that they disclosed they now have over 1.7 million ETH. And their BMNR NAV per share, which is what we've been looking at for a while now, when they started and they had the original pipe, they only had their original pipe was at $4.50. And they acquired a ton of ETH from that pipe. And so they've basically grown this treasury to being BMNR NAV per share from $4.50 all the way up to now $39.84. So they've quite literally 9x'd the Ethereum treasury, which is crazy, almost 10xing in just a matter of like what, a month and a half, give or take, 2 months. And so that's pretty awesome. Now, the goal is, as we all know, is just keep increasing this this NAV per share. And that's what Tom Lee has talked about a lot this week. He's actually gone on a couple of famous podcasts, which we're going to get into here in a second. But as you see here, we are still, the alchemy of 5%. The goal is to get 5% of all the ETH supply out in the entire world, stake it. That way we have operating income. We can use that operating income to either purchase more ETH or buy back shares in the long run, depending on, using arbitrage to figure out what's the best to increase the NAV per share, like we've gone over many, many times throughout the 10 videos we've made on this series. So let's go ahead and hop into this next video. This is super awesome, guys. And this ultimately was what led me to buying more, and specifically buying more BMNR this week, because Tom Lee, I was waiting for him to go on Amit's podcast. So I watch Amit investing like every single day. Amit Kukreja, I think that's how you say his last name. I should probably know that because I've been watching. I'm really bad at pronunciation. Wow, I just mispronunciated pronunciation. And Amit Kukreja is one of my favorite YouTubers ever, and he actually had Tom Lee on his podcast. Now, I'm only going to play just a few seconds of this, but I wanted you guys to listen to Tom Lee specifically when Amit asked him what he thinks is going to happen on the price action throughout the end of the year. And so we know he's been, first it was like 6,000, 7,500, 8,000. Now it just keeps kind of going up. So let's listen to what he has to say now.
Yeah, I think Ethereum, in the near term, 5,500 should be happening in the next couple of weeks. But by the end of the year, I think it should be closer to 10 to 12,000 for ETH. But it's because, most of the move in crypto does come in the fourth quarter. So if you're up 35% year to date, well, if you're going to be up 200%, it's going to all happen in the next few months. And for the S&P, if the Fed follows through and begins to cut, which is our expectation, and then we get a drop in mortgage rates and the ISM turning up, and therefore financials really begin to participate, I think that's why we get to 6,800.
Guys, the number is like on an escalator, and it just keeps going up. It just keeps going up. Listen, I'm not going to say anything because Tom Lee has been literally the best economist probably in the entire world over the past few years, where he has correctly predicted a lot of things that every single person saying would not happen. And so you can't, obviously he doesn't have a crystal ball. He can't see the future. Maybe he can, but what we all know, he cannot do that. So now what we need to remember is that now, that I've said this time and time again, now that he has a little bit more stake in ETH, he has a lot more stake in BMNR. You got to remember that he's a little biased. And so he's having a lot of conversations with a lot of very bullish people, and that could be clouding his judgment a little bit on exactly the price target. Now, that being said, I would absolutely love, and I think all of us watching this video would love to see in the next 2.5 weeks, ETH going to 5,500. And by the end of year, which by the way, we're literally about to get into September. So that basically gives us like 4 months, sorry, because 4 months. So in 4 months, if we can get to 10 to 12,000, that's amazing. Obviously, if that would literally over double our money, maybe triple our money from where we're in on these plays. So obviously, I'm rooting for that to happen. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I personally don't think that's going to happen. If I gave my own price target 5,500, I could see happening in the next couple weeks, but by end of year, I would say like maybe 7.5, 8. That would be like my guess. But hey, the bullish, the better, right? The more the merrier, the bullish, the better. I just made that up. But that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the next thing, guys. I hope that tickled your fancy, because it definitely tickled mine. Now, one thing I wanted to mention too is that we are big fans here of Joseph Lubin, big fans of Joe Chalom from obviously from SharpLink. He's the new co-CEO. And I wanted to share kind of his thoughts as well. So let's go ahead and play this video. I'll put the volume up.
If you go back to what I shared earlier, that we are at the verge of a very significant inflection point in Ethereum adoption and the Ethereum network usage, it is an Ethereum investment opportunity, a long-term one. So if you believe that, as we do deeply, you want to accumulate as much ETH as possible at the lowest price possible for as long as you can, not just for capital appreciation, but you own all that ETH. You have an ability to stake it in very native ways. You have an ability to restake it. And then you also have an ability to support the DeFi community.
All right, so obviously this is on the X for SharpLink, so if you want to go watch that entire video, I just really wanted to get his perspective as well. It's good to hear from, Joe Chalom, but this is what we've been talking about, from the very first video, guys, is that this is a long-term thing. If you're here to trade, great. I mean, maybe trading is what you do all the time, and this might be great for you because the volatility within the underlying asset is massive. ETH has a lot of volatility, but I personally, and I know a lot of people, my viewers, are long-term investors. And so if, this is an actual opportunity, and if we believe there's going to be stablecoin adoption at a mass scale, if we believe in the future of tokenized assets like we've seen with smart contracts, Robinhood, and other players out there that are building these things, then Ethereum will be bigger than it is today, right? Can we all agree on that? And so when it's bigger than it is today, you have more activity on chain, you have more ETH being burned. Therefore, you should have more activity, more purchases, volume go up, supply demand. I mean, it all makes sense to me. We've talked about this a million times of how that price over time will go up. But ultimately, there are some people out there that obviously compare Bitcoin and Ethereum to gold and oil. And right now, we're still a little baby compared to those assets in the world. So Ethereum's just over 500 billion. Gold is 23 trillion. Bitcoin is 2.5 trillion, give or take, still 1/10 the size of gold. So in the long run, we got to remember, as adoption happens, these assets should go up in value. That's what we're all betting on here. That's what I'm betting on. That is why ultimately I have a decent chunk of my portfolio into this Ethereum play in general and all these digital asset treasuries. So let's go ahead and get to the price action, guys. Didn't want to bore you. Hopefully I didn't bore you. Hopefully you're still here. So Ethereum has had quite the week. Where we've done things like this, like when interest rates happened on Friday. Woo! We went up from 4,200, about 11% gain. This is the last video I came out with on Saturday. We sat at about 4,700 for a bit and then dropped all the way down to about 43. Now we're back up to roughly 45. That is ETH. I mean, if we can scroll out, let's go 1 year, 5 year. There's a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. That's volatility. Totally fine. We know that. And you got to live with it. If you aren't okay with volatility, then you probably shouldn't buy Ethereum. And then if you're not okay with dilution, you probably shouldn't buy BMNR or SBET. We're going to talk about that too. So let's go ahead and hop into BMNR. BMNR right now dropped 8% today, which means were they possibly using ATM to dilute? Potentially. Was it just a product of ETH going down? Potentially. Or it's just also volatile. But that being said, I think part of it went down because I bought a lot today, and it went down after I bought. We'll get into that. So you can blame me, guys. You can blame me. But we are at $45.10, which, to be honest with you guys, for a while, this is exactly what I was kind of waiting for. I will show you all my purchases throughout the entire summer, but let's go on a 3-month chart here where, I avoid the pipe, and then I waited and waited and waited and waited until it was a good mNAV, and I started buying around here. And then it went back up, doubled in price up to the 60s, and I waited and waited and waited, and now I'm buying again. Because I really do think that the mNAV and using arbitrage on the price of what Bitmine is trading at compared to the Ethereum it holds actually matters. And so we're seeing that a little bit with why it's trading down and why some others are trading up at the same time. Like SBET actually this week, I believe, has outperformed. Let's actually go to the weekly chart on, we're down 10%, and SBET, we're up 0.13% in the exact same week. So this is what's telling me, guys, that mNAV does matter. All these calculations we've been talking about, this tracking, looking at things like this sheet here, I use it as a guide because you should too. I don't want to buy into ETHZilla when it was trading at a 6.4 times mNAV because I feel like that's obviously going to not sustain at that level. So let's go ahead and hop into all my purchases throughout the summer. So what I did is I went to Robinhood, which is where I primarily trade nowadays for my brokerage account. And I went through and looked at Bitcoin, Ethereum, SBET, and BMNR. And so I actually put it into this sheet. We're going to go one by one. Just look at the ticker, the date, the shares, the price, the value. So before the treasuries came out, I wanted to show you this. Before the Ethereum treasuries came out, of course, MicroStrategy existed, but I was buying Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, June 14th, I just put in $500. I was DCAing. Bitcoin again, June 20th, $500, DCAing a week later. Now, Ethereum, July 9th is whatever day that I decided at $2,700 that ETH was. Man, I wish I just threw everything in there, guys. I would have almost doubled my money at this point. But I bought one ETH for $27.94. Bought some more ETH. Price obviously had gone up at this point because I spent $3,000 and didn't get a full ETH out of it. And then SBET is when this is when I started buying SBET. Now, before this, you know, SBET was trading like $7 and it pumped. It had the pipe. It went down. I was tracking the mNAV. I was actually primarily looking at an mNAV of about 1.7 because we know that that's what MicroStrategy has been trading at for a very long time. MicroStrategy, as of recently, obviously is drawn down a bit. Now they're trading more time, like a 1.5 times. But SBET was trading right around that 1.7, so I wanted to get in. And this is when I originally started purchasing SharpLink Gaming. So we can see about 10 shares, about 125 shares the same day. And then I bought BMNR about 5 days later. So this is my first purchase of BMNR, as you see, at $32.33. I wish I bought more there as well, but hindsight's always 20/20, guys. You can't say I wish. Otherwise, we'd all be absolute bajillionaires. Know it. So SBET, 50 shares I bought on the 4th of August. So I'm just DCAing. The 11th, I ended up buying more ETH, about $1,000 worth. SBET, more SBET, more SBET. Okay, so you can see here, August 11th, I can actually tell you why I started buying a bunch of stuff. I was so bored. I was on a work trip in Atlanta, and I literally had nothing but my phone and Robinhood and like a couple of work friends that didn't know shit about cryptocurrencies. Excuse my language, but I was sitting there just trading the whole time and looking at stuff and bought a lot of other things too. But we can see here, I bought the next day. I woke up and just said, you know what? $650. Boom. Spent $14,900. Went really hard on SBET. This is back. You guys got to remember during this time. Actually, I'll show you the chart. August 11th. Let's go back to BMNR on August 11th. Let's go to the 1 month. August 11th, when it was $68.54. So this is why there are people in the comments like, "What, Tanner? Why didn't you buy SBET?" Well, guys, if I bought SBET why didn't you buy BMNR? If I bought BMNR the same day I put all that money into SBET, I'd be down like $7,000. So mNAV matters, guys. This is when mNAV was really high for BMNR. I wanted to stay away from it, so I was DCAing into SBET. Decided to go ahead and put some cash in because I had quite a bit. And so I'm pretty happy with that, even though I'm still down on that position. I'm pretty happy I decided not to buy into BMNR. Now, 2 days later, I ended up buying just 5 shares just to kind of hedge, just in case that thing kept running. I just wanted to get a little bit of exposure, more exposure to BitMine. And then we can see, we can go down to more shares of SBET as it went down. Shares of BMNR, August 21st, August 22nd, more Bitcoin. Reason why I bought Bitcoin here on August 22nd was because ETH had pumped and Bitcoin sat there. I think ETH was outperforming Bitcoin by like 6%. And I was just like, this doesn't seem right. So went ahead and bought some more Bitcoin. Then August 25th, this is 2 days ago. So we can see August 25th, 26th, 27th, all the way down to here. I just kept buying BMNR because that mNAV has fallen. So I bought 10, 20, 30, 75. That's 105. And then another 100 shares, 205 shares, and put in quite a bit of money. Now I did total everything. And we can see here that I put 1,500 into Bitcoin since June 14th I put 6,795 into ETH, 21.5 thousand into SBET, and 11.76 into BMNR for a grand total of these 41,594. So that's roughly like 9% of my portfolio, give or take. So I have about a 9% exposure just to what I've bought in the last couple months, basically. Now, what do I plan on doing moving forward? Okay, I really want to even out these two positions. I want BMNR and SBET to be about 50-50 weighting. So what I think I'm going to do is potentially, I don't think I'm going to trim any SBET. I think what I would like to do, though, is eventually just keep DCAing into BMNR. I also think I want to get maybe some Sol exposure, some Solana, just because I've talked about this a little bit. Solana is the fastest chain. Yes, it's not the most decentralized, and yes, it's not the most reliable because it has had some downtime throughout its history. But that being said, there are some people out there that are saying, like, look, guys, Sol's still going to get a lot of the cryptocurrency, the stablecoin technology and DeFi technology on the Solana Foundation network. So it might behoove some of us, if you have extra, to hedge against that as well. Just buy some Solana. It has been performing decently well as of recently, as similar to ETH. So that's it on that. Let's go ahead and hop into this. I wanted to share because today was not a good day. We had a lot of a lot of things down in our ETH portfolio. But remember this, guys. ETH has died 146 times. Bitcoin has dropped minus 8% more than 1,000 times and has an average recovery of 109 days. So there have been so this is through a 5-day period, by the way. So from high to low, from a 5-day period, Bitcoin has dropped 8%, 1,063 times, guys. So all these red dots are the start of an 8% drop. That's crazy. So remember, these are very volatile assets, but what happens over time, we've seen that it's been been great over time, obviously. We've been able to make up. The average recovery time on an 8% drop is 109.5 days. That obviously takes into consideration the huge bear market cycles and crypto winners that we've seen. So that all takes into consideration as well. And so wanted to throw that out there just to give you guys a little bit of peace of mind. Another thing I wanted to share was this was kind of the thought process as well, is that this guy makes a good point. So Bitmine, that we looked at this sheet here, when you scroll down, this is great to see, is that the NAV per share we looked at, that $39.84 that Tom Lee reposted, this is on the official Bitmine X account, is that we have now like $40 in value in ETH per share. And so we really don't have much, as long as ETH doesn't plummet in price, the risk of buying this asset really isn't that much. It's about a 15% drop from 47, which is where it was when this guy tweeted. And so you're basically risking $7. Currently 47, 7 divided by 47 is a 15% drawdown if it goes to 1.0 NAV, while the upside is obviously much more than that. Also, as the company acquires more ETH per share, that's obviously going to increase the price as well. So we have the underlying asset working for us. We also have Tom Lee, Joseph Lubin, Joe Chalom, and obviously their teams that are working on using arbitrage to buy at the right time, to dilute at the right time, and to ultimately increase that ETH per share equation. So that's pretty bullish. That's why I bought today. I don't care that I bought a little bit higher than the average Joe. I guess if you're buying right now. But I did buy. I wanted to highlight. I did buy. $50, $50, $48, $48. So a little bit higher than today's pricing. And then I want to get into SharpLink. Every single week they release their press release. They released it on Tuesdays, and so you notice that on this last week they actually lowered the amount of ETH they acquired significantly. This is actually the lowest they've acquired in the last month. Not really sure why exactly, but you can see they issued more shares than normal, and they acquired less than normal. So let's just keep that in mind. Right now, we do have about 800,000, give or take, in Ethereum. And so we also got to remember they did approve on August 18th, which was last week, we did approve a $1.5 billion stock buyback because if you're looking at that equation, we keep talking about one way to help out that equation in your favor is to decrease the denominator, which is the fully diluted shares. If you can buy back shares, it's obviously a way to make this ETH concentration equation go up. And that's ultimately SharpLink's goal. I wish that these two treasuries would just talk it out, have either one measure of ETH concentration, or we could maybe have the NAV per share thing that we looked at here. If we could just have one or the other, it'd be great, because then we can fully compare both. Someone did do the math though, and as of I think like yesterday or 2 days ago, BMNR has like a 7 ETH per share, so or ETH concentration. So that's using SharpLink's, right here, SharpLink's equation. They're actually significantly outperforming SharpLink on that measurement. So take that into consideration as well. I also wanted to show you their ETH portfolio tracker. I don't love this, and I talked about this last video, but the dots aren't when they buy ETH when they buy ETH. It's when they announce that they bought ETH, which just doesn't make sense to me, guys. Like, why can't they just have the big blue dot be at the exact time they bought it rather than when they announced it? Because that just seems very, very, very silly to me. But so be it. Their decision. Now, the final thing I want to get into, guys, is if you are curious on ETHZilla, there is this really cool interview here with Bankless. Bankless is a great YouTube channel that I recommend anybody interested in any type of cryptocurrency. Definitely check out Bankless, but they do have a full 1 hour and 30-minute video. It's not the entire time that he's on the video, but the ETHZilla chairman, McAndrew Rudisill, and like I said, bad pronunciation, guys, but he is actually live talking about ETHZilla, and I thought this was interesting because he talks about a few things. I think the big thing is like using ETH as a high quality collateral. I think this section around 30 minutes was really cool. And then he does talk about what's really interesting is I did like the segment where he talked about Michael Saylor and the preferred equities that Michael Saylor's and MicroStrategy, or now Strategy, are putting out. And basically, it's like, guys, if we believe that there's an asset out there, and just close your eyes and imagine it's anything. If there's an asset out there that grows 30% year over year, and you can borrow money through debt instruments of any type for 10%, would you not just accumulate as much debt as you can to then buy the asset that's going to go up 30%? It's basically an infinite money glitch. If that is the case, if you know that something's going up 30% year over year, and you borrow at 10%, you're going to borrow to get that asset as much as you can. Like, you're going to do that until you can't do it anymore, right? And so that is Michael Saylor's strategy, guys. Like, the guy is actually convinced, to every part of his body is convinced, that Bitcoin will be worth millions of dollars. There's a lot of people out there that believe that. And so if you truly believe in the bull case, then yeah, you're going to do whatever it takes. And a lot of people in the comments, of my a couple videos ago when we talked about preferred equities, were saying, dude, why would we do preferred equities? It's stupid. Like, once MicroStrategy started doing preferred equities, the share price has gone down to the floor since then. Yada yada yada. Well, listen, guys, if ETH is actually going to 10 to 12,000, you wouldn't mind if they were to do some other methods to basically get more money to buy more ETH, right? Because if it triples in value, why would we not do that, right? So that's what you got to remember when these companies are doing these things. It's ultimately because they're bullish at a core. They're trying to acquire. Now, do I think that this is going to happen? Maybe, but maybe not. So BitMine, right now we know they have a goal of getting 5% of the entire supply of ETH. So what are they going to do after that, though? We haven't really got down that bridge yet, right? So what's going to happen? Who knows? They might stop. They might keep buying more. ETHZilla and the chairman actually in this interview talked about how he thinks there will be a point where the other digital asset treasuries will catch up to BitMine, because he thinks that they're going to slow down once they hit that 5%. Because there is a point where you don't want to get too much ETH, right? And so if Tom Lee's strategy is the alchemy of 5% and he just gets the 5%, stops, and then stakes it all, then it would give room for other companies to catch up over time, right? And so just wanted to throw that out there, guys. That is going to be the end of this video, but I really do appreciate all you guys for watching. Excuse me. Sorry, some digestion. Geez. But I really appreciate it. One thing to note too is that I actually am going on vacation for 9 days. I'll be back sometime like 10 days from now. But I do plan on having a video ready for you guys throughout that week. And thank you guys so much for the support. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to making a lot more content just like this. So see you guys on the next one.